When I was 15 months old, my father murdered my mother, then killed himself. He hit her in the back of the head, then shot himself in the chest 2 days later. I was found in the bathroom of the home where we lived in a high chair. That's my sob story. No big deal. And it shouldn't be a big deal. Yes, it's a tragedy, but that's all it is. We all have them. Now, tragedies are always followed by forks in the road, and this is where it really gets interesting. Because see, after their deaths, I was adopted by my mother's parents, Robert and Cotill Smith. My grandmother, who was from Mississippi, had been a housewife, a hotel maid, and my grandfather was from North Carolina, an assembly line worker who worked for Chrysler. Even though they were older, they still had enough love and ambition in their hearts to raise a child all over again. Now, let's get back to that fork in the road. My story is not unique, not at all. I have met hundreds of young people whose parents have passed. Fathers were incarcerated. Mothers had drug problems, and the list goes on and on. Again, everyone has a sob story. It's what happens after the sob story that really changes your life. I remember kids who had disclaimers hovering over their heads like acid rain clouds. It's as if they had a default excuse to fail in life. Like, well, his father died. That's why he gets in trouble. Or her mother is on drugs and that's why she's in jail. Or he was molested, so that's why he gets put out of schools for raping women. Her mother had her at 16 and that's why she's pregnant at 14. A tragedy is not a death sentence. It's not a reason to fail in life. It's the fork in the road that follows it that is life altering. I was never told by my grandparents or anyone else what happened to my parents. If I asked, I was told she got sick and died. By the time I was 23 years old, both my grandparents had passed away without ever telling me about what happened to my parents. I remember being a kid and imagining I was like Bruce Wayne and a robber had shot my parents and maybe one day I could become Batman. But in reality, I actually found out what happened to my parents by browsing through old newspapers at the library when I was in college at about 21 years old. And honestly, folks, it all made perfect sense. Again, after my parents passed, there was a fork in the road. My grandparents took the road to shelter. I was sheltered from the built-in excuse not to succeed. I was not shown sympathy. I was not told my life was different. I was not told that my life was going to be hard for me because my parents had passed. They never asked anyone to feel sorry for me, and they never said one negative word about my father. They forbid anyone who came in contact with me to talk about what happened. They knew if I was constantly showed pity, if they allowed others to frequently talk about what happened to my parents, it would greatly alter the perception I've had of myself, thus giving me the default built-in excuse not to do well in life. And see, I would have something to blame it on. And let's look at all the sons and daughters who have heard their mother scream the words, "Your father ain't nothing, or you're gonna be a loser just like your daddy." Imagine how many times my grandparents had to bite their tongues when topics regarding my father came up. They never uttered one bad word about him, and that is the main reason why I love him and that I can't be mad at what he did. I don't understand it, but I'm not mad about it. I was not raised to hate him, and I don't. I'm not saying my father wasn't a bad guy, but he took the life of their daughter, and my grandparents didn't have a lot of time to really deal with that because they had to immediately cater to me. Not so easy of a task at all. I was loved, I was pushed to excel, and failure was never an option. They demanded hard work, they demanded I carry myself with confidence and morals. Now, my mother was spoken of and placed on a pedestal like like an angelic role model. However, they never used phrases like, If your mother was here, she would say, or your mother would be so proud. Nothing to make me feel like I was missing something or that I was different. My life was as normal as block parties, birthday presents, and school plays. I called my grandmother Mama and my grandfather Dad. They gave me everything they had to give. In fact, they gave me everything I ever wanted. Following every tragedy, there's a fork in the road. The direction you choose or the direction that's been chosen for you can mean the difference between success and failure.